Welcome back to Couture Construction. I'm your host, Andrew Denny, and you're listening to Season 10, The Build Revisited, a design journey from land to legacy. Every home has a story. Here's how it's built. To celebrate 10 seasons of Couture Construction, we're retracing the steps of custom luxury home building, from financing and floor plans to final publishing. Through conversations with architects, designers, builders, real estate experts, and even clients themselves, we explore how dream homes come to life today. Each episode this season will pair key players in the design build process and revisit some of Couture Construction's most loved voices, now sharing even deeper insights from the field. Whether you're a seasoned professional or simply design curious, this is your blueprint for how the best homes are built. Today's episode is all about the beginning. You found a piece of land you love. It has a view, a feeling, and the potential to become something amazing. But now what? We're diving into the groundwork, how to evaluate land, navigate the buying process, understand financing, and build the right team from the start. Joining me today is a familiar voice, Kelly Ladwig, realtor and the creative behind Home on Nashville Hill, making her fourth appearance on the podcast. She brings her signature warmth and insight into helping clients find not just a house, but a home they can build from the ground up. Also with us for the first time is Shawn Kaplan, a trusted mortgage advisor with Cross Country Mortgage who specializes in helping clients structure smart, strategic financing for both land purchases and custom builds. So whether you're dreaming of your future home or already scouting properties, this episode is packed with the questions you need to ask before you break ground. Guys, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Really, really excited to dive into this topic.
Thanks for having me back.
Yeah,
yes,
it's
absolutely.
Always wonderful. And Shawn, super excited to meet you. And you come highly recommended. So
well, thank you, Kelly, for inviting me.
Shawn and I go way back, so we do a lot of work together.
That's awesome. How long have you guys known one another?
Ooh.
6 or 7, maybe 8 years now.
Been through some battles?
Yeah. Oh,
Yes.
Both of us are, our journeys through real estate, personally and professionally.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's been cool.
Yeah.
That's really,
it's been fun.
really cool.
He's helping me. I'm on a new chapter with my home journey, and Shawn's helping me out with that. Helped me out with the first one. So yeah. We go way back.
Very, very cool. Well, so we're going to dive into the discussion topics, and we're going to start with the land we love. So Kelly, just kind of give us an overview of what's happening in the market right now, especially for people hoping to build their dream home.
I think what people are learning is that building a dream home, a fully custom home where you pick out the land and everything, is becoming more and more expensive. Used to be you could do that for $1 million, $1.5 million. Now to build a true custom home, you're looking upwards $5 million in many cases. You have to look at what drives that, right? The price of the land is the biggest driver. And I always say, just for a really, really rough estimate, take the cost of the land, multiply it times about 4.5%, or 4 times 4 or 4.5. That gets you your build cost.
Oh, wow.
So it's a super, not real scientific way to get your cost, but it gives you an idea. So when I'm meeting with people, that's one of the first discussions that I'll have is to get an idea of a budget. And then once you figure out, okay, yes, we can do a fully high-end custom, or how do we tweak it where we go into maybe a customizable spec, right? A spec home that's being built that they can then alter. Or do we get into a production home? Or do we get into a home that exists and then we do a massive renovation? They're all options. There's so many ways to get into it. And I always say, just because it isn't the perfect house doesn't mean you can't make it the perfect home.
Oh, that's great. That's great. With the landscape has changed tremendously since COVID, and it appears that inventory fluctuates. Interest rates have certainly changed over time. Are there less buyers? Is there less inventory? Is it more competitive? Is it true that when interest rates are lower, home prices are higher? It feels like, it just keeps going up. Are you guys seeing that?
You want me to take this first?
Yes, ma'am. You're the expert.
Right now, as of today, the big news is there are 500,000 more sellers than buyers.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that, you've got the media driving a lot of it. So that's a little bit of a change. You've got, what I'm noticing is you have sellers who are still thinking we're in 2021, right? Where my house is going to have appreciated X amount. People are pricing things very high. You have people who are like, oh, let's just see what happens. You price your house too high, nothing happens right now.
Yeah.
Buyers, meantime, are finally seeing things are at their advantage for the first time in about 5-6 years, right?
That's good.
Well, it's good, except you also have to be realistic with your buyers, right? Because they're coming in. I mean, I had someone the other day, it was a $6 million listing, and these jokers offered $5 million and then said they weren't going to negotiate. So every price point that's happening. But we're also seeing some homes get multiple offers and go right away. So it's kind of, I like to call it the hot pocket market right now. You know, the hot pockets that you put in the microwave and you either like burn your mouth or they're ice cold. That's what the real estate market is, right? Some homes are hot, some are ice cold.
That's
and
a great analogy.
It makes no difference. So I think we're seeing a leveling off. Buyers are expecting existing homes to be perfect. Buyers, at least the buyers that I work with, will almost always choose a new build over an existing build.
Really?
Because
Interesting.
people want to make it their own.
Very, very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So let's talk specifically about land, and I'd like to just kind of. There's some differences. I feel like, especially in Middle Tennessee, that we'll use as our kind of testing. There's either like estate properties that are multiple acres, or there's developments in luxury neighborhoods that offer lots. What do people that are considering building, is that one of the first choices they need to make, whether they want to be in a development or a standalone property?
Absolutely.
Yeah, most people come to Tennessee to live the Tennessee dream, right? They want acreage out in Leapers Fork or someplace in Williamson County. And then as you start to talk with them, reality starts to set in. Do you need to get kids to activities? Do you need to get kids to school? Are you willing to be someplace where you can't get a pizza delivered? Those are all things you need to
Do you like bugs?
right?
And snakes.
Right. But those are all things you have to you have to discuss with them. So for people that truly want to build a homestead, that don't want neighbors, that don't want people around them, and don't mind driving, then we start looking for raw land.
Okay.
For other people, then we start investigating what kind of neighborhood can we get you in, whether it's, a luxury neighborhood or something that has amenities for the kids. We start then winnowing down that way.
Okay. So, Shawn, from kind of a high level perspective, when we're looking at land in particular, before the plans have been drawn, before we've got others involved, naively, I've always thought that's probably just a cash type deal.
Yep.
But how does that work? Like, can you go to the bank? Can you go to the mortgage professional?
Yeah.
And can they finance it? Like, how do you get pre-qualified for that?
So Kelly's advice was perfect, because you want to have a general idea of where you're going to want to buy land and build this property, because it's going to fall usually into like one of three categories. One, it's going to be a lot that's already subdivided somewhere or in a subdivision, and the builder will actually buy it for you with a deposit. That's option one. So you're just putting down like a deposit, and he's buying it, and you're going to commit to plans and all of that.
Okay.
The second option is you say, no, I just want to buy it. I want to own the land. I want to make the payments on it. We'll build on it later. And then the third option is, hey, no, we want to buy the land and we want to build on it.
Okay.
So critically important what she said, because I've done all three of them. I've probably done 5, done my own variation, screwed it up, right? And I'm screwed up something that's turning into investment now that I had to learn hard with land. But I would say Kelly also hit the nail on the head with the expectation around money.
Okay.
I might have been in that last generation of being able to buy a piece of land and a couple of years ago, get a deal on it, build, have tons of equity. I think those days might be gone.
Okay.
Unless you buy really well and you really stick to your budget. That's why it might be nice to pick a spec home and add your own touches to it and get a hobby farm with a couple of acres, and then maybe get the 10 to 20, 30 acres next after.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. So, Kelly, from your perspective, if you're dealing with a client, what are the specific financial questions you ask? Is it, and would you prefer they're already working with somebody before you even get involved so that the search can be narrowed?
One of the things that I highly recommend, so anybody who's watching, listening, one, work with work with a realtor who knows the area, who knows the off-market properties, who knows the ins and outs, and who knows what to look for, because it will save you from making a very expensive mistake.
Okay.
When I work with clients, the first thing I ask, are you pre-approved? Is this a cash purchase? If it's a cash purchase, hey, show me where we're at, and then we can go out. If they are going to finance, I will put them in touch with Shawn and make sure we're good to go. Because the last thing you want to do is get everybody's hopes up, right? And they're like already naming the horses that they're going to have, and then they can't even afford the land before they build. So I think that's a super important step. So a lot of my thing then it just becomes, I have like an aspirational conversation. Describe what you see life looking like. And you hear that, right? And then you keep that in the back of your mind. So not only to look at the land, but also maybe do we get you into a neighborhood with a 5-acre lot, right? So just so you can have multiple avenues. It's my job to show them what they want, but it's also my job to show them maybe what they need.
Can I add something to that?
Absolutely.
Kelly helped us and represented us on a sale of a home that we lived in. Did an amazing job on it, and she was critical too in our build process because she had gone through it and guided us through it. And that's so important because there's many great realtors out there, and at no fault of their own, they're just wanting to help out a client, but they're coming from Davidson County to go out to Williamson County, and it's critically important. But also, like, not only has Kelly gone through the process, but she's also got the numerous contacts she's worked extremely hard to build all the relationships with, which is extremely beneficial. She saved us a couple of different times on a few things.
Well, I find it interesting because your story in this realm really started with a mistake. Walk us through your dream piece of property and what happened there, because I feel like that's what can be scary for somebody, looking and you're envisioning a homestead and this beautiful piece of property, and home on a Nashville Hill started that way. And then what happened?
Yeah. So we decided we wanted to build. We found a lot in a neighborhood, and it was on the most beautiful hill with sunsets. And we were so excited, and our realtor's like, yeah, go ahead. And we bought it, and we'd go out there and have picnics and watch the sunset and dream. And we spent considerable money designing the house. And then we realized we were on what's called a critical slope. So we had to have a critical slope study. And then we had to have geotech work done. And that's when we found out we were on something called colluvial soil. And in order to build, we had to drill piers down about 18 feet. And we had to build probably about $500,000 to $600,000 of retention. At the time, our total budget was like $700,000.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting on that hill crying.
Yeah.
And during this time, Home on a Nashville Hill was born, right, to do that. So we quickly realized that we'd be divorced if we tried to build a house on that and broke. So we found another neighborhood,
wall,
right? Yeah, right. found another neighborhood. Again, it was a home on a hill. It was on 3 acres. We went through the same process again, and it was like $1.5 million over budget. And we were so defeated at that point, and I didn't have anybody to go to. We ended up at another lot, kitty corner across the street. It was flat. We kept the name Home on a Nashville Hill because Home on a Nashville flat lot didn't really have a good ring to it. Anyway, but we built there. And I learned so much from that process. And it was during that time that I said, I am never going to let anyone go through this. And I think that's really the passion behind everything. I mean, just yesterday, I'm dealing with, just yesterday, 3 different people with pieces of land with different challenges and things we had to work through. And it's all stuff that you learn by either making a mistake or living through it. And then you share that with the people you work with.
So, I mean, it's fascinating to me because there's so many things to consider if you're actually going to build on a piece of land. And Williamson County, for example, I always hear people talking about septic. In Nashville, with some of the remaining lots, it's water management. Those things that you spend a lot of money on, but you never get to really enjoy. How as you're going through the process, do you guide clients like before the mistake is made, to understand, hey, now I think that we can put a home here? Or is there a way to do that with the right team?
Well, I think a lot of it depends which county in Middle Tennessee you're looking at, but let's use Williamson County as an example, right? So Williamson County is extremely regulatory when it comes to septic.
Okay.
It is a very difficult process. So when I am looking at land, you will see listings and you will see things like preliminarily perked for 5 bedrooms or shovel ready. The shovel ready lots are usually more money, but here's why. Before you put land on the market, you need to go through and see if it perks. What that means is that they test soil absorption.
Okay.
And then that determines how many bedrooms you can have.
Okay.
Doesn't determine how many bathrooms, which is super confusing. Like you could have 12 bathrms, but you can only have 5 bedrooms. It's based on how many people are living in the house, how much potty's going into the ground, how it's being absorbed. The process to get a home from initial soil test to final approval in Williamson County, I just went through it with some clients of mine, and it took about 23 months.
Oh my goodness.
That's before you ever start digging.
Break ground or anything.
Wow.
Yeah. So
And how much was the permits too?
well, yeah, and you're spending, $7,000-8,000 on permits. So that's why when I am with clients, I like to find land that is already perked. It's shovel ready.
Okay.
We're good to go. If you're out and you find property that you fall in love with and you can envision your life there and it's preliminarily perked, make sure you write into the contract, subject to final perk. You want to have those signed documents in your hand before you ever close on the land, because the last thing you want, and we see it happening all the time, people buy this land and they can't build on it because they can't get it to perk.
Hey, you don't need to talk about me over
I am
here.
talking about you, Shawn. True story here.
So Shawn, tell us about that. I would love to hear about that, because you used a term earlier, like a hobby farm. So before we started talking, Kelly and I were talking about kind of the town and country lifestyle. So, maybe an idea for some folks would be, city living, but having, like, Nashville's another great example of that, right? Amazing town, a lot of walkability inside the corridor, amazing amenities. Maybe it is a place where you just want to get away.
Yeah.
And there's beautiful land. You go 45 minutes to an hour south or north or whatever, and you're just in beautiful country.
Andrew, have you seen Shawn's property?
No.
It is the most idyllic. Like when you think of Middle Tennessee, that's it. Like they literally should shoot there for like the tourism department, because he got himself.
Well, tell us the story.
Just to correct, it's Jennifer's house.
I just lived there. Tell us the story.
Wife.
Tell us about this piece of property.
Well, so we bought this about 9-10 years ago. I lived in another county. I wanted to get to Williamson County like a lot of people. And I knew that first thing I had to do was get a place to build a piece of property. And even then, land was hard to find. And we found a piece of land that was on the market, but it had some issues with it. But we snagged it up and got a pretty good deal on it. And it was 17 acres.
Oh, wow. Nice.
And I said, well, we'll just make the minimum payment on that. So when I was talking about getting just a land loan, that's what I did. Put down payment. I just made the minimum payment every year. Even when I was broke, I was like, stop doing 401k and everything. I was like, paying on my land. And then about 3-4 years ago, we started the build process. We were very fortunate. We ran into septic issues. You brought that up. It was already platted for septic, but we didn't want to build the house where they had the septic. So we had to go through the process to get Williamson County to agree to allow us to run a tight line all the way down to the septic. So there's solutions. But then they hit us last minute for $56,000 because they wanted a pump to go downhill by negative 30 degrees, which I don't understand, but that's Williamson County.
So they didn't believe in gravity.
Yeah, and if you have a budget and your septic's already $50,000, that 56 throws you off pretty bad, And that's where she was talking about the cash out of pocket is required. So there's pitfalls that she can help you with, and we can help you avoid big time if you follow our advice. But like someone like me who's a knucklehead, I bought a 37-acre piece of property, which she's talking about, after about 5-6 years ago. And I got excited because I was at the auction, just checking it out, and nobody was bidding on it. Well, I was like, this is too good to be true.
There's your first.
Yeah,
there's your
yeah.
first.
I mean, I'm in the
danger
business.
sign.
And
Yeah,
here I
yeah.
am at this lunch thing. I look
Bingo!
at
Yeah.
my buddy and I said, do you want to make a bid on this? He goes, sure. So we made a bid and we won the bid on 37 acres. We later found out it was a non-buildable lot and it hadn't been perked yet. So luckily we went through the full process and annexed it into Nolensville, and it's going to turn out to be a miracle investment. But it could have ended up bad, and most people would have been stuck making that payment, stuck with that land and not know what to do.
Okay.
And I do, you talk about this town and country concept. I've actually been talking about that with several clients recently. People who want the land, but they need to be close to schools and things like that. So it's like, how do we maybe downsize or right size your home in town, and let's buy you 5 acres in the country that doesn't need to perk for anything, really.
Yeah.
It's a place to park your ATVs, a place, just to go out to and hang
pergola
out.
and fire pits and
Correct. So it truly becomes a land destination. And I think we're going to see more of that happening as prices go up and up and up. I mean, we're in Williamson County right now, we're looking upwards of, $189,000 for an acre.
Wow.
There is a new section of land that's going to be coming available, and the guy is wanting $289,000 an acre.
Wow.
And there will be someone who pays it because of the location and because of the amount of land that's available.
Wow.
Or Kelly can show you that beautiful $5 million listing with 5 different buildings already in Eagleville.
Yep.
There's so many options, like you said, to get the hobby farm or the weekend getaway or your space that you want to build your retirement home on. You just have to be prepared that you're not going to be able to get a deal on it. You're going to pay, premium price. But what if you were to buy it and then maybe sit on it for another 5-10 years like I did and like Kelly did, and you avoid all those mistakes and you look up in 5-10 years it's worth a lot more, so you have more equity in it.
I have another client who found, and Melissa, she bought 10 acres in Davidson County. So for those of you listening and watching, Davidson County is Nashville.
Yeah, Metro
10
Nashville,
acres in Nashville.
That's amazing.
On a hill. Bought it several years ago for, I think, about $400,000.
Jeez.
And sat on it, right? And because she didn't have the money to build, but she did have the money to get the land. And then very slowly they built a shop. So they would go out to the land, right? They'd go like 4 blocks away and go to their land, and they built the shop, and then they started to build their house. And she's super smart. She was very careful with her planning, but I will tell you, she finished building that house and got it appraised, and it was worth double what she put into it.
Wow.
If you can buy the dirt right, that's the key.
Who sings "By Dirt"? I mean, that's
Oh yeah,
Luke Bryan.
Jordan Peterson,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah,
Or,
Jordan.
and
That's right.
Luke. I think that's just by dirt.
Yeah.
So Shawn, tell us about the financing process with that. Like, let's say it is a second property. Let's say it is somebody in a metro area. We'll use Nashville again as an example, and they do want to buy, a place an hour south or an hour north and, or in Kentucky, whatever. And it is just land, and maybe they'll do something later with it. What are the financing options? Like, what kind of, let's say it's a $1 million piece of property.
Right.
What do they need to have to be prepared from a cash perspective? And how does that process work?
A lot of it, good question. A lot of it has to do with the amount of acreage is where it's tiered first.
Oh, okay.
You start getting 20 acres and above, you're going to eliminate like normal mortgage options, mortgage companies. You're going to have to start going to credit union, community bank, or like farm credit. We do both in-house at our company, but like if it's, say, 10 acres, we can finance that with a 20% down payment. Usually we'll do it on a 15 or a 20-year loan, interest only. And then what people will do is they'll either sit on it and make the payment, or we'll convert it to a construction loan. They pay off that loan and they start building their new property. That's kind of how it's done.
Okay. So 20% minimum.
Typically.
And what does interest only mean? Is that they're not paying necessarily down the principal? So it's it would make it mean it's a more manageable monthly payment.
Yeah, it's just like a credit card, just to make it simple. If you don't pay extra, the balance won't go down. But in a lot of cases with real estate, because it's historically appreciated, you're okay paying just the interest because that keeps that payment low while you're getting ready to build. So like, for example, just like Melissa did, we did the same thing. By the time we built, the value had gone up on the land so much that we had equity in the property automatically.
So was that able to then be part of the collateral for the
Correct.
bigger loan?
Yeah. So like when she said it appraised, they're saying it's going to appraise for this, and you only need this much to build and pay off the rest of the land loan.
Oh,
as long as you stay within budget.
Yeah, nice.
But that's the other thing. We went over budget.
Yeah.
Which is another big cash risk, and like Kelly said, we're not trying to scare people away, but we do get a lot of people that are like, hey, I'm moving here. We got our 2 kids. We're doing pretty well for ourselves, but we want to buy this piece of land and build this giant house, and we want to do it for $1.5 million. It's just not like that anymore.
So we all deal, I think, and I'm not sure about you, Shawn, but Kelly and I feel like deal mainly in like the luxury market.
Yeah.
And I've been doing this. It's funny, I date myself, and I hate using this term, but for a quarter century now. And I've worked on well over 10,000 projects, and I have yet to ever see one be in budget, or what the original budget was, unless it was somebody that literally bought a home that was complete. Like that was it. That was the only way that they stayed in budget. When I hear you guys talk about some of the pitfalls and, just thinking through building your dream home, you had mentioned you got hit with a $56,000 blindside. You got hit with a $600,000 wall. Okay. Is that, do our listeners need to understand they need to have the cash for that? Or is that something that can then be further financed?
Yeah.
It's like, what kind of cash position should somebody be in if they're looking at building from scratch on their own piece of land?
I always tell people you need to budget at least 10 to 15% in slush for overage, right? Because you're going to go over. There's going to be something that goes over. And when I work with people, and one of my passions is working with people as they build.
Sure.
And lots of times I'm the bad cop, right? Because in the beginning it gets really exciting. Oh, I'm going to have steel doors and I'm going to do this. And
then they have hollow core.
Let's take a breath,
doors,
right? Yeah. Because things add up. And it's very easy to say, oh, but it's only $5,000. So first of all, when you work with me, we never say, it's only. It's money,
the
right?
onlys add up.
Yeah.
The onlys add up.
It's a lot of money.
Yep. And I think everybody's, even when people say they don't have a budget, they've got a budget, right?
Yeah.
But I think you also need to be realistic that you have to have a contingency fund, and you cannot micromanage a build before you go into it. I have a builder who released a client this week for that reason, because they felt that they needed to know down to like $100 where everything was going to come in.
It'd be
and
a miserable experience.
And that's what they said.
Yeah.
They're like, we are not going to walk into the next 2 years with unrealistic expectations. And for people building, they've got to take a breath, because there's going to be times you get a bill you don't want to see.
Sure.
Dylan and Emily Favre can talk more about that, right?
Yeah.
They will get, you get a bill and it's like, okay, do we pay it? Do we cut back someplace else? So it's all, this is a living, breathing thing. So I think.
And it's inexact. I mean, it's, as I shared with my experience in it, I think I would only ever build if I had a team, and that I did maybe a frame walk and then came back once I was moved in by somebody else, because it's such an exhaustive process. Like, there's so many decisions to be made, and I've seen over and over how it can become miserable and really a strain on relationships, and it's a whole different animal.
I think you bring up a really good point, and especially when you're in the luxury space. And let me back up a little bit. Everybody's money is a big deal. I don't care if you're spending $500,000 on a home or $5 million, right? It's kind of the same thing.
Right.
But when you start getting into the luxury category, you get a team. People don't want to do it. They want to save money. They don't want to use an agent. They don't want to use a designer. They don't want to use a landscape architect. They're looking for the cheapest pool. You're building a $5 million house. Why wouldn't you pull together the best team possible?
It pays for itself too.
It does.
It literally
costs you
pays
somewhere
for itself. It's we're a trade showroom, right? it cost 20% more to buy from us as somebody off the street than it would if you had a designer. And that's how the industry pretty much works, right? So you can quantify the savings. The right team avoids the mistakes.
Right,
It's really amazing to me.
Kelly, I was going to tell them, you helped us because we did go over budget. And when you start going over budget, you have to start making decisions on things that you can't have anymore. Well, the first thing was the pool. And she was walking through that, and she gave me some great advice. So again,
I thought a pool was like 40 grand.
Oh, no.
At zero?
You can't. You almost can't even.
$700,000 now.
I don't even think they'll talk to you for under 300 now, like most of them. I mean, unfortunately, it's expensive. But she gave me some great advice. She's like, when the house is done, because my wife also wanted it upgrade on the roof. So I was like, we're not going to be $500,000 over. So she gave me some great advice. She's like, do the roof, but finish the house. And then after, I could get my line of credit and do the pool after. And she was right. And then I was not going to do the pool, but then she kept telling me, and she's right, that you can't have a house, a luxury home, and not have a pool, with 17 acres and a farmhouse. And so we put the pool in.
Man, that sounds.
But we did that
and you
after.
love the pool, don't you?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
That sounds like a great place.
So you can do a lot of that after closing, because your house is probably going to be worth more within the next year or two after. And you do the pergola and the fire pits and all that stuff, and cut back on that if you're going to be over budget. And she can guide you through that.
Yeah, and I want to mention it's budgets are a really complex thing in building, and it's just the unexpected. It's a delay. I mean, it's having to make a choice to whether to stay on a timeline or not. And that choice alone could be, tens of thousands of dollars. Either way, right? Because of financing costs, or waiting for a material, or having to reselect one that's more expensive. And those are all unintended. It's just, as you said, a living, breathing thing. And unlike a lot of other business, it's at the mercy of about 150 different entities. So it's a very, very interesting thing to step into.
And I think that's where it's really important to have somebody like Shawn, right? Or a finance team that you can call and say, hey, listen, we're looking at this going over budget by $100,000. What can we do to be able to accommodate this? Because this is a team sport, right? This is not, you aren't playing this on your own. And the real magic happens when you get a group of people who are all vested in the success of your project.
Yeah.
I get super emotional anytime I walk through somebody's build, because I know we're bringing, and I'm emotional talking about it right now, I know we're bringing their dream to life. And you want people that are there with you.
Yeah.
I've done it on my own. I'm doing it again, and I'm hiring people. And my project this time is very different, but
still a team.
It's still a team, and it's so much more fun this time with other people around and not feeling so alone. So yeah,
that's awesome.
She makes my wife want to build. Like we're one of the psychos that want to do it again.
Yeah, well, and that is one of the keys, is to work with people that have done it before. Like it is. There's a lot of like type A personalities that think they are going to step into, and it sounds like your builder just had one that they were going to control it, and I've never seen it, and it's just been a miserable experience.
I started doing it with our builder in the beginning, but then I had to back off because what I realized was I could have a craftsman work on my house, or I could have a vendor work on my house. And
that's
if
good.
I would push something, well, he'd go get a vendor, then I'd be unhappy with the work, and so I started backing off. And you can't rush an artist, and a good builder's an artist.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I think there's a saying is that you can have it well done, fast, or cheap, and you get to pick two.
You get to pick two.
Yeah.
Yep, that's very true.
And a lot of times people walk into this with the expectation that it's all three. And it's just one of those things. So
I think the other thing too, we're talking a lot about land, right? Big land. The same premise works if you are purchasing a lot in a city. Like I've got clients who don't want 10 acres, right? But they want to live in Green Hills. So we find, usually it's a house. We tear it down. It works the same way, right? The numbers work the same way,
Renovate,
the financing.
too.
And then there's what I'm doing, which is from spec to spectacular, giving myself a little plug.
I'm excited for that.
We are buying a builder's production house, 0 upgrades, in a price point that we're comfortable with. And then the day we close, demo starts. We're pulling everything out, and I'm adding high-end finishes.
Yeah, nice.
Because it's a way to show, maybe you can't afford a fully custom home. It's a way to get a house and put all of the great things that you want into it. So there's different ways to skin this cat. And sometimes you might have to press pause, perhaps. Just because it's no now doesn't mean it's no forever. You might have to press pause on the dream of the rolling, 52 acres. But there are different ways to get there.
Absolutely.
Well, what I really take from this conversation, which is interesting and it's somewhat personal for me, is really evaluating, the difference between the dream and reality. And I think probably being in Tennessee, if you ever go out to the country, you're like, oh my gosh, I would love to be out here and I can envision this and that, and a little house on the prairie and the girls running through the field, and it's like, yeah, but you can't get Uber Eats there.
Nope.
Like, and I mean, that's
hard to get
2025. Yeah. How do you get internet now? And that's maybe $300 a month because it has to be Starlink or the unintended expense. Those are things that I believe really need to be considered before the huge commitment, because on the flip side, if you get into one of these situations, you have to hold it for
you have to maintain it.
It's a commitment.
And that's a whole nother thing.
Let's not talk. Yeah, I mean, that's a whole other episode is maintenance.
Because you can't let your beautiful home go away,
Shawn, I think one thing that I think people need to hear, if somebody's looking at building custom or building at all, what do they need to do to kind of get ready and get their ducks in a row when they come to you to understand what they can afford?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's never too soon to get with Kelly and figure out exactly, do you want to be on a hobby farm in a neighborhood? That's the first one. Second one would be have a rough idea of what you want to build, because you'll do all this and all the talking and the looking, and then the lender's going to say, okay, well, what are you going to build? What's the plans and the specs? Because then we want to know what's the cost estimate. So the other thing is making sure if you want options, you want to have 700 plus credit scores, if not 720 or above. And I wouldn't pay off more debt. I'd keep more cash in the bank. It looks better when you're qualifying. Those would be a couple of things I would say prepare, moving into it.
That's important, I think. And I think it's a good reminder for me also, because, selfishly asked that question. So,
but all the other stuff too, like
better.
Don't go finance things, try not to owe money to IRS, all that. Because you're borrowing money. When you're borrowing money to build, we look at it as more of a you don't have to, it's a bonus, and, they have to qualify. You have to qualify. Now, you asked a moment ago, we're like 50 acres. So we have a department, a line that will actually finance 25, 30, 50 acres. And it's more of like an agricultural loan that you have intention to build on eventually.
Okay.
And there's a lot of benefits to doing that too, which is a whole nother segment.
Well, right, because then you get the benefits at any time. Here, if you're above 15 acres, you get Greenbelt tax credit, which means it brings your taxes down to just about nothing. So you sell eggs, or you sell firewood, or tomatoes, right?
Hay.
And as long as you show $1,500 in profit from that, your taxes go way down.
Really?
So this is the finance side of it that you can justify moving from the city out to the county. Because let's say you have a doctor and he's on W-2 salary. Well, he's paying a lot in taxes because he's W-2. Yeah. When you own a farm, 15 acres or more, and you go to Greenbelt, you can also create an LLC around that farm. So you have income coming in, and then you can tractors and
expense
all the expenses and write it all off. G-Wagons, it's over 6,000. But then it offsets the W-2 income of the doctor or the high-income W-2 earner.
So then it basically pays for itself.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
That's something people don't really consider. I think having a really great finance team, mortgage team, it is a wealth strategy. Yeah, and it's a tax strategy.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. Well, guys, this has been amazing. I think we've covered most all of the topics, and really, really appreciate the expertise. I mean, it is, it's amazing what we learn from experience and from mistakes. And I hope our listeners have a lot to consider. Don't be scared of it, right?
No.
But just really have a team and a plan and expectations. But really, on any of these, really understand the land before you become committed to it.
Correct.
It's not. It's there could be a lot going on underneath the soil, literally, that you'll have to contend with, and that's something to do. So we're going to move on to our rapid fire segment. Shawn, I'll start with you. What's your go-to summer weekend activity?
Go-to summer weekend activity, Dollywood with the girls.
Oh, nice.
We
Kelly,
like Dollywood.
Kelly, what about you?
Oh, I'm so bad. I work
There you go.
because summer weekends are busy. Otherwise, I sit at home next to my pool.
Yeah, and your furs and all your beautiful little animals.
Furry 5, yeah.
Shawn, back to you. One thing you never travel without.
Oh my gosh, earpods.
Oh, Kelly?
I was going to say that too. Kindle.
Okay. And you're a big world traveler. Do you have a big trip coming up?
We do. We are hiking the French and Italian Alps at the end of June. I may not make it back.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't blame you. Shawn, design taste, neutral or bold?
Probably more bold.
Kelly?
Bold with hints of neutral.
Yeah.
A little bit of balance.
Kelly's taste is pretty darn good.
Yes, it is.
And then final one, build your dream backyard, pool, garden, or outdoor kitchen.
All of the above.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
We are talking luxury.
Well, but you know what? It's true. I mean, you aren't building, you're building an outdoor entertaining area. So I would argue all of the above. If I have to pick, it's probably the pool because it makes me happy to look at, even if I'm not in it.
Yeah, water has some sort of effect. Yeah, and I've heard your pool story, so
It is. It's
cool,
really,
right?
really nice. Really nice. Goat Turf did the work on it. They did a great job. And my wife, I would probably say pool again for sure, just because it does help the home. At a certain price point, I don't, you've heard the thing, I don't know if it's worth more, but I would say pool. But my wife wants a wellness house right next to it.
Okay.
Okay, that would be
I
perfect.
don't want to derail this, but wellness homes, wellness spots in your home, that is the next big thing in luxury
There's
homes.
this old barn that she found that she wants to buy the old barn and take all the wood, store it, and then do like 18-foot ceilings and ice bath and gym and office and garden.
I have somebody for you that can help you.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, so it really is. If COVID ushered in anything, it's that luxury retreat is home. Yeah. So to have that, I think you're right. That's something really, really cool. That'd be fun to have. But then I would get depressed because I'd be like, oh, I'm never spending any time in the wellness and blah blah blah.
But I think
I'm still just sitting in the kitchen.
I think at the end of the day, people really are wanting to be home. They're wanting to create a legacy. They're wanting a place where they can simplify, right? Simplify their life, right? Not that a luxury home is simplifying, but they want to be someplace where life is simpler.
Yeah.
And creating a home on land, whether that land is 20 acres or an acre. Is what they're
It has some
looking
sort
to
of
do.
legacy. I just picked the girls up from camp in Western North Carolina, and it was a really, really special place. But the land had been passed down, and the camp's been run by the same family.
Oh, wow.
It's in its 104th year.
Whoa.
And to see like the blueberry and the apple orchard that had been created by generations before. I mean, it literally was so special. But that's what I think people want, especially as we step into more and more technology. And it's just a neat way to create a legacy. And so that's kind of what the dream home is. I think that's where really the vision starts, is envisioning the family gatherings, etc. And and then it goes from there and can be a really special thing for a lot of people.
I wanted to encourage your listeners and your viewers to, like, that's a big thing, like dream, like really dream, like take out the paper, draw it out. That my wife had it sketched out for 2-3 years on a piece of paper. And then we had the plans done and they were up on the wall for 7 years. We just looked at the house.
Oh, wow.
But go drive where you want to live, like dream. Like that's a really, really cool, important thing to do because it will tell you what you want to build, and maybe you won't get everything you want, but you'll shoot for the stars. You'll land on the moon. And we would go to Blackberry Farms, and we were like, we want to create Blackberry Farms on this piece of land. Well, we'll never be Blackberry Farms, but we can always be trying to work towards that, and that can be our dream, right?
Yeah.
So keep dreaming.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, listen, the start of any great home is a story, not just about land, but about vision, relationships, and thoughtful decisions. Whether you're building your forever home or just beginning to dream, today's conversation reminds us how critical it is to build your team and foundation with care. So don't do it alone. Involve your lender, realtor, builder, and design team early. Land might look perfect, but knowing what lies beneath the surface is key. And financing can be a powerful tool, not a barrier, with the right partner at the table. Thanks a ton, y'all. Next week on Couture Construction, we've secured the land. Now it's time to honor it. Join us next time as we bring together an architecture and build dream team to explore how the physical site and the creative vision come together to form the foundation of a meaningful custom home. Thanks for joining us on Couture Construction. If today's episode inspired you or helped clarify your next steps in the build process, be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and follow along on Instagram at Couture Construction for more behind-the-scenes moments from the world of luxury home building. This episode was produced by Cass Collective and Chelsea Rand. Until next time, keep cultivating creativity.